Hi, you're watching Hindustan Times. I'm Aditi Prasad, and with me is the Hindustan Times editor in chief, Sukumar Ranganathan. This edition of Hindustan Times Insight is all about the hijab row. The row escalated from Karnataka colleges to the Karnataka High Court and now to the Supreme Court. Although the apex court has absolutely refused to interfere in the matter for now, the protests have already spread to Delhi, to Chennai, to Kerala, to Maharashtra, and even in Uttar Pradesh. Now, I want to cut straight to the chase, Sukumar. How disturbed are you at what is happening, what happened in Karnataka? Whether you are for hijab or against hijab, can anything really defend taking education away from the girl child?
See, this is one of those problems or issues which is extremely complex.
Yeah.
And it's complex because it is an issue that transcends various levels. Um, and at some point in time, and I'm glad you started with the reference to the Supreme Court, but at some point in time, I think it is the kind of issue that the Supreme Court should weigh in on. We do need an authoritative judgment on expressions of religion, like the hijab is. In the absence of that, you're going to have a lot of these issues that keep flaring up repeatedly. I just want to go back a little bit to these multiple levels that I was speaking about. And one of these is that within Islam itself, the concept of the hijab is controversial. There are those who swear by it, and there are those, even within Islam, the more progressive voices who have over the years put it down as a sign of patriarchy, put down the fact that even women who are voluntarily embracing the hijab are doing it because of decades, perhaps centuries of patriarchal conditioning. So, even within Islam, there is this view on hijab. But what is happening in Karnataka right now is happening at a different level. And there are a lot of disturbing things that are happening in Karnataka. Let's go through them in no particular order. One is, of course, this whole competitive display of religious identity, whether it's through the hijab or through saffron scarves or through turbans, which is happening in the state. The second one is the state suddenly deciding to pass a rule about uniforms, right? The third is the fact that on one side you have the fact that there were when issues started in one particular college, you suddenly had a bunch of girls deciding that they would wear the hijab, and perhaps as a counterfoil to that, you also have colleges, because since then it spread to various colleges in the region and across Karnataka, but especially in the region, you had colleges which had no issues with people wearing the hijab, which now are having issues with that, saying that you can't cover with the hijab. So the whole issue has got muddied. I just think that it's been played badly at various levels by everyone concerned in this, including the local college authorities, including religious groups on both sides, both the Hindu religious groups as well as the Muslim religious groups that got involved in this, and of course by the state government. And I want to reserve my particular ire for the state government, because we all know that this is a chief minister in Karnataka who's been having issues within his own party, but not particularly secure ever since he took over from Mr. Yediyurappa. And you have seen a raft of these legislations and rules that are being passed, right? I mean, there was one on cow slaughter, I think. There was one on religious conversion, I think. And now
Yeah.
you have this rule on uniforms. And I have no idea what he's trying to do. None of these issues, um, I'm not holding up Mr. Yediyurappa as a paragon of either virtue or governance. But you had none of these issues when he was managing the state. And of course, it was clear to a lot of people that he had to go. Um, but if it, I just think that things have been allowed to spiral out of control.
Even people who used to criticize the hijab earlier are now siding with the girls, right of choice. And I think that largely is because of the politics surrounding it. Uh,
But you're right. But again, it's not as cut and dry as that. It's not black and white. And the reason it's not black and white is um, the hijab. You look at some of the European legislations, including in France, concerning items of which show or pieces of clothing which express your religious identity in some way. There are all sorts of issues that have cropped up, right? I mean, even many of the Western countries have problems with some of these displays. And so, if you're going to get into the legal issue and if you're going to rule on this, which I think is probably the only way in which you can solve this problem, because this is not a problem that is going to be solved by dressing up a bunch of people in saffron scarves and turbans, which was what was
True.
happening. There were religious groups which were doing it out, and then to have them face off another group of people who are going to be wearing the hijab.
But
Um,
I just have one observation there, Sukumar. And while I agree with you that yes, there is a need for the Supreme Court to step in and take a clear view on this. There is also the Sabrimala situation, which has been pending for almost 2 years now. The Supreme Court has not really taken a stand one way or the other.
Point. Excellent point. And I'm so glad you raised it because I was going to come to that. These are inconvenient questions, Parati, and these are tough questions. But at the end of the day, we do have a constitutional court because it's the constitutional court's responsibility to weigh in on these things.
There are some reports that suggest that PFI is stoking fires by provoking the Muslim students. Others are blaming the right wing outfits. The truth is always perhaps lies somewhere in between or somewhere in a very gray zone. In your assessment, the politics of it, how far has it muddied the water of the actual issue?
Of course it has, and you're very very true. I mean, you do have the Campus Federation of India on one side, and you do have right wing Hindu groups on the other side. Right? You have the Bajrang Dal, and I think in that part of Karnataka you have a Vedika Seni of which is also there, and they have been involved, and you clearly that's muddied the water. I would have thought that an elected government in Karnataka would not want this kind of situation to emerge because uh, this is things can rapidly go out of control, and you don't want that. But again, I want to repeat myself, which is why my ire is largely reserved for the Chief Minister of Karnataka because I think he's mismanaged the situation completely.
You talked about the chief minister of Karnataka, and that leads me to another question, because you started with it, but I want you to talk some more about it. This issue could have easily been settled between the schools and the students. Uh, why does the state government have to step in? It's a it's an issue about uniform. It could have been nipped in the bud, but it sort of when the state government took a decision, it sort of blew out of proportion. Um, what I mean is there is clear mismanagement, and you did point to the chief minister's role in this and whether he's do you believe him to be deliberately fanning the fires, or?
No, I don't think he's fanning the fires. I just think that he probably wants to strengthen his credentials within the party, and maybe there is a misguided feeling that this is the way to do it by acting strong on issues like this.
Hmm.
Otherwise, I see very little reason why, and you're right, very little reason why an issue that could have been solved locally, that could have been solved either at the level of that one educational institution or at the level of a bunch of educational institutions in one part of Karnataka, has to blow up into an issue which affects the entire state. Has to blow up into an issue that is today causing protests across the country. Clearly, it should have been addressed at that stage. And um, I would again, if you have rules in an educational institution, these rules have to be consistent. These rules have to be consistent across community, and these rules have to be consistent in their implementation.
Hmm.
I, I'm not sure. Um, I'm not sure how consistent we can be about this in this country, right? I mean, religion
Hmm.
pervades every aspect of our life.
Right.
Of course, I went to school many, many years ago, many decades ago, but the school I went to had a temple in it. Right? I mean, so you can't completely divorce, and religion is not it's not alien to the Indian way of life.